Hello, this is Edward Lambert with another video about the six-element model for acupuncture. This video is going to be about the San Jiao Meridian. And just to back up here for a second, is that we're talking about six-element theory here. And so what's the sixth element? Seed. And what are the two meridians of seed? San Jiao and pericardium. So I'm going to be making some videos about the San Jiao Meridian and the pericardium meridian. And we'll start off with the San Jiao Meridian. This is part one of two parts. Okay, this is from chapter 10 of my ebook, Creating Life. Meridian of seed element, San Jiao. When one looks into the primordial soup, the primordial power is not visible to the naked eye. The power is silent and can't be heard. Its presence is subtle. It is only self-evident through the fruits of its transformative power. The fruits are the life forms that grew out of the primordial soup and now move on the earth. Now what I'm going to read here is this is all from a book. All these three paragraphs is from a book called All Sickness is Homesickness. It's a little book I found years ago, and I wrote this passage down, but I can never find the book again. But here it is. There's a wonderful story to illustrate the great function of the three-heater, the San Jiao, as space maker, peacemaker, homemaker, and caretaker for all the rest of life. So whoever wrote this book, which I don't know who it is now, understood the San Jiao as the caretaker for all the rest of life. It's the one who harmonizes the other discordant elements. The story is from a little book called The Sermon on the Mount According to Vedanta by Swami Prabhavananda. In one of our monasteries, there were a number of young postulants, not yet trained, fresh from school. When they had been together a short time, their old tendencies began to assert themselves, and the boys formed cliques and quarreled. A senior Swami of our order went to investigate. He questioned everybody and soon discovered the ringleaders. Then he wrote to Swami Brahmananda, who was the head of our order, that these boys were unfitted for monastic life and should be expelled. My master answered, "Don't do anything about it. I am coming myself." When he arrived at the monastery, he did not question anyone. He just started living there. He insisted on only one thing, that all the boys should meditate on his presence regularly every day. The boys soon forgot their quarrels. The whole atmosphere of the place became uplifted. By the time Swami Brahmananda left, 2 to 3 months later, perfect harmony had been established in the monastery. No one had to be expelled. The minds and hearts of the postulants were transformed. This story describes the quiet and subtle power of the San Jiao. Just the presence of the San Jiao is transforming. The story also points out that it is good to regularly meditate on the primordial power of the San Jiao within the body-mind. In this way, one's actions, thoughts, and emotions become aligned with the harmony of a mature wisdom. Primordial power itself has no form, like the other elements. Even the element fire can be seen in its blazing flame. Even metal can be seen on surfaces. Primordial power has no form, but only function. It has the function of transformation. But this function is ethereal, because the function has no form. Primordial power is a presence that cannot be sensed with the 5 senses of sight, hearing, touch, smell, and taste. If one tries to touch it, nothing is felt. If one tries to see it, nothing is seen. If one tries to define its shape and form, one finds that the primordial power dissolves its own form, always being formless. While it has no form, it has presence. Its presence permeates completely. Its presence can only be sensed with the 6th sense of intuition. The intuition resonates with the primordial power. Chinese doctors for centuries have debated whether the San Jiao has a form or not. It is written that the San Jiao has no form, but only function. This is from chapter 66, Classic of Difficulties. The San Jiao has a name, but no form. So the San Jiao is just like primordial power. Neither has form, they only have function. Still, it is possible to sense the primordial power in a human being because the primordial power had to take on a physiological form in order to function in an individual being. In the primordial soup, all elements were brought into a special balance. The process of bringing the elements into balance is overseen by the sixth element seed. Outside of that balance was a chaos that would destroy the life forming there. Ever since the actual primordial soup, physical bodies could never lose total contact with the power in the primordial soup. Even as life evolved to move out into the chaos, the primordial soup had to go with it. If the connection to the original soup were lost, the integrity of an organism would disintegrate, it would die. Which means we still have the primordial soup in us. The main function of the sixth element seed in the physical body is to sustain the original power of the primordial soup. Despite the chaos in nature and also of the world around us, the body does this by regulating and adjusting the concentration of various substances in the interstitial fluids, lymph and blood plasma. The interstitial fluids are the key to homeostasis in the body. Essentially, the interstitial fluids are primordial soup, which is still flowing through us. In physiology, the interstitial fluid is referred to as the internal environment. This fluid surrounds all the cells and organs of the body. Cells are bathed in this fluid. In order for the body's cells and organs to survive, the composition of this fluid must be precisely maintained at all times. A body has homeostatic balance when its internal environment has the optimum concentrations of gases, nutrients, ions, salts, hormones, and water, and has optimum temperature and volume. These concentrations reflect the ancient conditions in the original primordial soup. One of the functions of the San Jiao Meridian is to transport yuan qi, as well as body fluids through the ko of the body. The Oriental medical term ko refers to all the spaces in between cells and organs. Obviously, the ko is where interstitial fluids flow. Yuan qi is transported with the interstitial fluids. Therefore, the homeostatic control of the interstitial fluids is the power of yuan qi. San Jiao and its connection to yuan qi correlate perfectly to the homeostatic fluids that flow through the ko of the body. In six element theory, San Jiao commands the fluids of the internal environment, which surround the cells and organs and harmonize the three jiaos. The interstitial fluids are the primordial soup in the body. These distinctions define San Jiao.